It's October 10th and I am way overdue for a garden tour. Now I've been out of the country for most of last month, but the garden has not stopped for 1 second and it is really lush right now. And I love this time of year because everything looks so good. All the stress of the summer is gone, the season has gotten cooler, the light is better. And so this garden is really going well right now. So let me just kind of show you what I have in the moment. I have some parsnips, which is something I haven't grown in about 20 years here in Atlanta, but that's this row, these couple of rows right here. I planted them about a month ago as seedlings, not direct sown as seed. Same thing with the carrots right here. This is a bed. I sowed the seeds in July, late July, into root trainers, a deep rooted cell tray, and then transplanted them out in early September. So here we are roughly a month later, and these are doing so great. And again, these were not direct sown as all the advice tells you to do with root crops, and understandably so, but I've always had a challenge with germination. And so this way, I put the seedlings into the beds, spaced about every 4 inches. I've got 100 carrots in this bed, and they are really taking off. In fact, I have a lot of carrots that have already formed. So in these beds right here, what we've done, they were in full production for all the warm season crops through the summertime, including the tomatoes, which have since been retired and pulled out. But what we had around them was really nice because we've incorporated a lot of flowers this year, such as this borage, lots of marigolds and nasturtiums in all the beds, and the pollinators have loved that. But now they've just filled into that void, and we're going to leave them there because I've got plenty of other growing areas, but the bees and other pollinators are still very active, taking advantage of the pollen and the nectar. So we want to keep that going. Speaking of keeping going, the most productive warm season crop that I have that keeps going all the way until frost kills it back are my pepper plants. So I had one bed of peppers this year, many varieties, but they are continuing to produce. So it's wonderful to come out here every day and pick some nice hot or sweet peppers. And this bed is going strong with that. And again, underplanted with nasturtiums. And mostly, that's it, mostly nasturtiums in this bed. But let's talk about some of these other beds that I have going right here. My omnipresent mustard. I love this giant red mustard, and I do like to eat it, but it's usually grown in the garden for the ornamental value. You can see the deep purples and sort of the fluorescent colors. And I always put that into like the middle of the bed because it can get very tall and it will stay strong until frost kills it back. And a lot of times it will rebound in early spring the following year. And I have some basil that's still here from the summer where we let it go to flower and seed, and so that's been a good addition. And then I interplant with kale, different varieties of kale. Everything here has been started from seed. Everything, in fact, you see in all these beds has been started from seed. Here's a bed where I intercropped with several different things: bok choy and pak choy, a Chinese cabbage family member, and then some chard right here. This is a good size for the chard. And one of the few pest issues that I've been dealing with, and this happened while I was out of town, is some cabbage worm damage. And they really, if they get ahead of you, they can take out your crop pretty fast. And in some of these, they got a hold of it. But by the time I got back, really this is as much of damage as I saw because I applied some BT here, which is a good organic, pretty much targeted control for caterpillars, and it stopped the damage. And when you cook that down, you're not going to notice those holes, so it really doesn't matter, although I do love the ornamental value of having it in the garden. And then I have some broccoli and some kale and romaine lettuce, some leaf lettuce. This is great to harvest at the end of the day and put it into a salad, Caesar salad especially. I love it for that. So my typical dinner is to come out here and harvest from the garden and take it in and incorporate that into my nighttime salad or maybe a morning smoothie for the kale and the spinach that I'm growing and even the beet leaves. So very productive there. So I've got another bed of cauliflower and cabbage over here, more kale and cauliflower. And then these areas that are kind of blank, I fill that in with arugula because it's such a fast growing, cool season crop. It'll germinate in just a couple of days, and next thing you know, you're harvesting it. So in all these blank rows where I have empty spaces, I'll come in with more seed all through the fall and plant more arugula. Just cut that down, put that in salads, and that's delicious. More basil going to seed, the nasturtiums climbing up along with the basil, the borage is everywhere. The basil over here went crazy all summer. This was a pollinator magnet, and it was just amazing to come out here and watch how active that was. And then I've cut back my eggplant. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 eggplant plants, and they have done really well. Cut them all back, and now they're making a second showing with new fruit producing. And again, this is one of those plants that there's some flea beetle damage here, but that's the extent of it. But this will produce until frost kills it back as well. So that's another tough one to have throughout the fall growing season. Broccoli over here, and then my flower beds that I've incorporated this year for the first time. I don't know what took me so long to do it, but I'm so glad that I did, because the change in how this garden has behaved, the activity from all the wildlife that's coming here, from the intentional plan of adding all these different flowers, not only around the perimeter of the garden, but in the beds as well, has been a game changer. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend that you do. It's beautiful, it's functional, it provides ecological value, and it's just a joy to be out here. So this garden has been incredibly productive all through the summer, and now that we're into fall, my favorite time of year for growing my edibles. Those crops that you can't grow in the summertime, they're actively growing right now. And so if you haven't started a fall garden, it's not too late. Maybe start with some leafy crops like the arugula or the lettuce, but don't miss an opportunity to keep your garden growing as long as you can. And fall is a great time of year for that. So here's an update. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and it's good to get out here and share it with you.